Chapter 24. Most people know that a square house is the most economical. That is, for outside wall area, you get more inside footage. However, most country folks don't seem to comprehend this. You'll often see where someone has built a long, narrow house, then added a long, narrow L, and later a long, narrow T. One day, my sister Dorothy and I were discussing complex problems. Let's say, for instance, you have a square, 10 x 10, so you have 100 square feet. But if you subtract 2 feet from one side and add it to the other, you have an 8 x 12 rectangle with only 96 square feet. Now tell me, she demanded, giving me the stern look of my old algebra teacher. Where do those feet go? Of course I didn't know, but I didn't want to let on. Finally, with a tone of confidence, I announced, "They go to the outside." That's precisely what was wrong with our little house. Someone had put too much of it on the outside when we were all trying our best to live on the inside. One of the hardest things for me to give up was the belief that a woman has the right to dress in privacy. My intentions to change clothes had an effect like announcing banana splits for everyone. It brought them running. I started to feel like a traffic light situated at the center of a buzzing intersection, everyone's eyes waiting eagerly for me to change. In response, I made some voluminous nightgowns and did my disrobing in any corner I could find to pitch my tent. Oh, how I wished more of the open spaces had been incorporated into our little house. My idea of paradise was a rocking chair installed in the middle of the civic auditorium. I eventually came to understand that living in cramped spaces required strategic stacking, against every bit of wall, in blockable doorways, under beds, and if you have a room off the garage, you stack things there until they mildew, then throw them out. I envisioned improvements for our little house. A massive closet could be built if we tore down the end of the large bedroom. A garage and a utility room could be added to the kitchen end. Freya's room could be expanded. With a little more effort, we could raise the roof and place bedrooms in the attic. However, every time I was in the heat of creative planning, I would catch my consultant stacking supplies in the barn. This reinforced Corey's sister Gurley's philosophy, which she had imported from Norway. You can always tell if a man loves his work more than his wife. If the barn is in shipshape, he loves his work. If the house is in good condition, I know, I would interject, often begrudging Norway, and other times resenting Gurley. Regrettably, Corey's actions seemed to affirm her belief. There was only one solution. One day I marched out to confront him in his office. "Darling, when we first moved out here, I was sporting saddle Oxfords and bobby socks. But the mud, dust, and obstacles climbed up to my ankles. But did I admit defeat? No. I persevered and put on my galoshes. However, the obstacles kept rising. They climbed halfway up my legs, so I resorted to my hip boots. But that didn't deter them. They've now risen up to my chin, and I'm in a predicament. I don't possess a diving suit." "You certainly are in a predicament," he observed. "And what do you plan to do about it?" "The only thing I can do is ask you to build me a new house." Corey studied me critically before replying, "Yeah, but I don't think you'd be content in a new house. You're not fond of these newfangled luxuries. You dislike anything up to date and prefer a basic lifestyle." He was quoting me, and I found it irksome. "No, my dear, a new house is unlikely to be the answer to your problems." Rubbing his chin, he offered a suggestion. "Perhaps you should start praying for a diving suit." It seemed like I was changing horses midstream. Until that moment, I'd been compelled to defend this house against all criticism. However, now I found myself hurling every architectural insult I could think of at it. Corey, on the other hand, morphed into the two-faced creature that most men are, and started to praise its charm. "This is actually quite a robust little house, not the most stable, but think of how many years it has withstood these east winds." He even went as far as to knock on the walls and contradict his initial judgment. "These studs must be closer together than I anticipated." Realizing this, he hauled in his toolkit and installed a large window in the dining room, enclosed the front porch, and relocated the kitchen stove. The large window in the dining room rewarded us with splendid views of the fields below. The newly enclosed front porch provided us with a third bedroom, which we furnished with 2 bunk beds and a chest of drawers. Unfortunately, the remaining area was so compact that to enjoy their sanctuary, Sig and Eric had to spend most of their time lying down. With the front entrance now blocked off, our visitors and we had to use the back entrance, which led to the relocation of the kitchen stove. On the first night, a brief skirmish erupted between the boys over who would get the top bunk. Sig won. Eric complained the following morning. "How can I sleep with Sig's smelly feet in my face?" This reminds me of that conversation I had with Dorothy about inside and outside footage. Those must be the 2 feet that should have been left outside.